I'm here to speak about some of the work that we have done in education in the past 5 years in Delhi government schools. And rewinding back 5 years, I often think of the time when this was soon after the Aam Aadmi Party government had been elected to power, and we were really gung-ho ke ab hum schools ko badlenge, kuch acha kaam karenge. And I remember I was out for dinner with some friends, and really long-standing friends who had even supported us, etc. And I was telling them that I was very excited कि चलो अब हम government schools को improve कर लेंगे, we'll make them better than private schools. And this really old friend of mine whom I've known for many years, his brother was also at the dinner. So when I said that we are going to make government schools better than private schools, he laughed so loudly he choked on his food. And he says, Atishi, you know, like you're an old friend, but thoda sa na have realistic dreams कि क्या actually हो सकता है. And now I think I need to go back to that dinner once again. And so for the past 5 years, really, it's been a journey, and I think we don't need to really tell any of you what a bad shape government schools were in. I think across the country, when is it that we hear of government schools? Government schools always make it to the news most of the time. I think the most frequent headline is when children fall sick after eating midday meals. That really is the most frequent headline. Uske alawa kya sunne ko milta hai? One hears there was a classroom without desks, children are sitting on the floor, teachers are making them cook food, wash dishes, etc. One never hears about government schools for the right reasons. And even when we started work in government schools, we did know that government schools were in a bad shape. But kitne bure haal mein hai, I think even we had not anticipated. After all, this was the capital of the country. We are not living somewhere back of beyond where policy has never managed to reach. This was Delhi, this was not Orissa, Jharkhand, Bihar, where you often hear stories of government neglect. But I still remember that when we started working in the schools, the first time I went into a Delhi government school, I'll never forget. As soon as you entered the school, from the gate itself, the first standing memory that I still have is that you could smell the toilet. And that toilet, which was 50 meters away, which you could smell till the gate of the school, because there was so much shortage of infrastructure, children were sitting in the corridor outside the toilet and there was a class going on there. This was the state of what a government school was. And in a city like Delhi, still more than 65% of children go into government schools. And that is really where we started our story from. And our story so far in the past 5 years, of course, has been a long journey. But just sharing some of the themes and issues that I feel that we have been able to change. I think one of the first things that we realized is that dignity matters. When that child goes into that broken down school where the toilet smells badly, where windows are broken, lights are broken, fans are broken, there's often no desk to sit on, the message is very clear. The message to the child is very clear कि भाई तुम तो second class citizen हो, तुम्हारा इस दुनिया में कोई फ्यूचर नहीं है. फ्यूचर उन बच्चों का है जो अब चमकते हुए स्कूलों में जाते हैं. And you could see it in the body language of the children. Not just that, even to the teachers the message is clear. If the government doesn't even care enough to get the toilet cleaned, why should we care enough to teach the children? And so in the first few years, first year, couple of years, really our focus was on improving the quality of infrastructure, in expanding infrastructure, in making sure schools were clean. मुझे कई बारी in the first couple of years, because we used to obsess so much कि toilet साफ हुए कि नहीं हुए, कितनी फिनाइल लगेगी, कितने sanitation workers होने चाहिए. I used to sometimes joke with the education minister with whom I was working as an advisor कि मुझे कई बारी लगता है मैं sanitation department में काम करती हूँ rather than the education department. Like I can tell you that there's 1,500 students in a school, exactly how many bottles of phenyl have we ordered to make sure that the school is cleaned. Second thing we also wanted when we started expanding infrastructure, we wanted to make it really world class. It wasn't as if कि भाई ये गरीबों के लिए स्कूल बन रहे हैं तो इसलिए बस जैसा तैसा हो वैसा चल जाएगा. Why is good quality needed there? And so this is what some of our classrooms used to look like. But this is probably some of the better classrooms because there are desks there and only one window is broken and the fan is also not broken. And this is what a toilet used to look like. वो सिर्फ ऊपर की फोटो दिखाई है क्योंकि नीचे वाला हिस्सा अगर हम दिखा देते it wouldn't be very palatable to show for public consumption. So in the past 5 years, not only have we expanded infrastructure, when we came into power, there were 17,000 classrooms. from independence to 2015. And already in the first 3 years of our government, 8,000 new classrooms have already been built, and 12,000 are already under construction. So within 5 years, we would have expanded the infrastructure from 17,000 classrooms to 36,000 classrooms within 5 years. Not just that, the classrooms look very cool as well now. In fact, probably look better. I had gone back to the school where I have studied from a private school in Delhi, and I can definitely say that our government school classrooms look better than that. This is what a Delhi government school classroom looks like now. This is some of our primary school kids. They're showing off how their hands are clean. They've cleaned their hands before sitting down for the midday meal. This is one of our libraries. And this is my favorite picture. This is what our toilets look like now. And it's a great sense, I almost feel a great sense of personal achievement that now when you go into schools, the only smell coming out of there is phenyl. And I think that this is not just about fancy infrastructure. Someone can ask us, why do you need to put granite on the walls? Why is it not a waste? But the fact is that I have with my own eyes seen the body language change of the children who study in these schools. पहले भी जो पंखे टूटते थे, लाइटें टूटती थी, ऐसे खुद नहीं टूटते थे, वही बच्चे ही तोड़ते थे. And now, because they feel a sense of pride in their classrooms, they feel a sense of pride in their schools, it's the same children, it's the same teachers, it's the same schools. But yet, this is how the classrooms look, and this is how the toilets look. Of course, it's not as if there's no maintenance needed, after all, बच्चे हैं. But then that is our responsibility as a system. That if there is a किसी classroom में अगर किसी ने कोई chair तोड़ दी, we have all done it in our school and college years. And if someone has, then it's the responsibility of the system to actually change that. Not just dignity for the students, even for the teachers. When teachers used to go for trainings, you know that tuta-puta classroom which I was showing you, वहीं पर teachers की भी training होती थी. So 40, 45, 50-year-old teachers who are getting good salaries, they were made to sit in those classrooms for 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours. And it was no wonder that no teacher ever wanted to go for training. And in the first year, when we started bringing some changes, we faced some opposition from teachers. But the first time that we really made a breakthrough with teachers, when we provided them with a sense of dignity. So in the summer of 2016, we had this massive teacher training. And so we converted 2 or 3 schools into teacher training centers. क्योंकि कई बारी ना फ्लोर अभी भी टूटा हुआ होता था. So in those schools, हमने सारे फ्लोर पे वो जो शादियों पे ग्रीन वाला कारपेट लगता है, वो सारे स्कूल्स में वो ग्रीन वाला कारपेट बिछवा दिया. We hired furniture from tent houses, tables. Each table had a nice white tablecloth. You had 4 chairs around each of that. Every teacher, when they entered, they got a Bisleri bottle, they got a spiral notebook, they got a nice gel pen to write with. And when 16,000 teachers went through this training, and instead of just giving them like one samosa and one chai through the whole day, we gave them nice packed thali lunch. It was not as if earlier governments could not have done this, because it was not as if that this cost very vast sums of money. It is just that no one cared about the dignity of the people involved in the system. And this is one of the things that I feel really helped us move this system. The fact that we gave dignity to the people involved. We gave the teachers, and we gave no one any cash incentives. We gave them no punitive measures. And yet with those teachers, with that very system, with those students, now our system is performing well. The second major theme, I think, is that we tried to look for champions within the system. It's very easy to blame people. It's very easy to blame the parents saying that they are not interested in the children of the school. It's very easy to blame the teachers saying कि भाई वो पढ़ाते नहीं हैं, वो late आते हैं, etc. But in every system, what you can see is that it's almost like there's a normal distribution curve. Okay, you have about 20% even amongst the teachers who are outstanding, amongst the teachers, amongst the principals. And irrespective of system कैसा है, अच्छा है, बुरा है, they do a good job. Then you have a bottom 20%. वो इतने नालायक होते हैं, आप कुछ भी कर लो, आप उनसे काम नहीं करवा सकते हो. But the system really goes the middle 60%. वो उस तरफ जाते हैं जिस तरफ हवा बह रही होती है. So if it's going towards a system that does not work, then this middle 60% tends towards the bottom 20%. Otherwise, it tends towards the top 20%. And so we really decided we need to find champions from within this top 20%, be it from teachers, principals, parents. And so one of our first measures that we started was that we activated something called school management committees, SMCs. Now these SMCs, like many other things in our country, existed as per the law, existed in policy documents, but didn't actually exist on the ground. And हमने SMC में, you have parents who are supposed to be members of this. Now what we must remember is that who is it who is sending their children to government schools? Often the poorest people in our society are now sending their children to government schools. More than 50-60% of children who are coming to schools are first generation learners. So their parents have never gone to school. So obviously वो school में आने से हिचकते हैं. Look at the class divide. You have a principal of a senior secondary school who gets a salary of 1 lakh rupees per month. And you have a parent who's a vegetable vendor who earns a few hundred rupees per day. But the most important thing is that these were people among parents who cared enough about making the school a good academic institution, whether they were educated or whether they were not educated. So we activated these school management committees, had elections for them. And really, I think that this was there were 12 parent members in each committee. And they really came up with amazing solutions to many of the ground level problems we faced. One problem that we often used to face was that, especially in outer Delhi, you had a lot of teachers coming in from Uttar Pradesh, from Haryana. So government administration school का कोई भी timing रख ले, didn't matter. They would, जिस time train आती थी, उस time teacher आते थे. जिस time मेरठ की train जाती थी, उस time teacher चले जाते थे. And so there was this one school near the Anand Vihar railway station where there was a 4:30 p.m. train to Meerut. So the second shift school was supposed to be from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. And except 4:30 बजे की train थी, तो 4 बजे सारे teacher चले जाते थे. Now there is only that much oversight that we can keep from a central system, however committed a chief minister, an education minister, or the education minister's office is. So the SMCs really came up with solutions which were extremely creative and extremely unsophisticated actually, but we worked. So in the case of this school near the Anand Vihar railway station, what was their solution? The SMC went and bought one big lock. उन्होंने एक बड़ा सा ताला खरीदा. And so what they would do is, every afternoon from 3 p.m. onwards, they would go to the school, you know, the big iron gates at the entry of the school. They would go inside. And from the inside, they would latch the gate and put this big lock, to which only they had the key. और फिर उसके बाद वो guard के office में बैठ जाते थे. And they would literally sit there from 3 p.m. every day to 6 p.m. every day. And of course, there was a battle of nerves between them and the teachers, but they just didn't stop. And for 2 months, they would go every day, lock the door from the inside. They would not let the teachers leave. They would not let the students leave. And this is something that we couldn't have done. We would have been in for human rights violation or something of that nature. But the SMC did it. And the SMC managed to change the culture of the school because of that. And there are many such amazing stories about how SMC members really came forward. This is one of my favorite pictures. This is an SMC member who, because she cared about her elder child's school, she came to an SMC meeting with her 3-month-old child. Not just here, we also found champions within our teachers. We found teachers who were willing to become mentors, who took on extra responsibilities, who took on the role of going into extra schools, mentoring other teachers. And I think the last thing really after all of this was reimagining classrooms. That after we have got some of the basic things in place, how is it that we can make classrooms creative? After all, like we have all been to school and we have all struggled with staying awake through most of our classrooms, especially after lunchtime. And getting innovative teaching methods. And we brought in a lot of non-profit organizations. We restructured our classrooms that children were not necessarily sitting sort of in one row behind the other, but doing group activity, innovative learning methods. This is what, like there's a role play going on here where these children are busy dancing or performing as a part of their language classroom. And not just this, I think that one of the path-breaking things which moving forward can really give direction to our education system is we have introduced 2 new curriculum in our Delhi government schools. One is the happiness curriculum and one is the entrepreneurship curriculum. Happiness curriculum, the need for that really is, and all of us have been in schools and we spent 14 years in schools and in the education system. We learn all kinds of things. We learn trigonometry, we learn coordinate geometry, we learn what minerals are there in Nigeria. But we do not learn the most important things we need to run our lives. We don't learn how is it that you can manage anger or stress. How is it that if you're in a workplace, how do you work with your colleagues? How do you work with your subordinates? How do you work with your bosses? And I think the happiness curriculum really is about this socio-emotional learning of children. And as a part of that, we actually have meditation and mindfulness as a part of the sessions that we are doing. And I'll close with this one story about what impact this can have on children and also on society and beyond. One day, a journalist went into one of our schools, and they were speaking to children about the happiness curriculum. So this one grade 7 child, and I read this story in a newspaper once they reported. So this grade 7 child told this journalist that एक दिन मेरे पापा ऑफिस से घर आए तो वो बहुत स्ट्रेस में थे और वो बहुत परेशान थे. तो मैंने उन्हें बोला कि पापा हमारे स्कूल में ना हैप्पीनेस क्लासेस में दिखाते हैं कि स्ट्रेस कैसे कम कर सकते हैं, गुस्सा कैसे कम कर सकते हैं. तो अगर आप चाहते हो तो मैं आपको बता सकती हूँ कि आपका एंगर और स्ट्रेस कैसे कम हो सकता है. Of course, I don't think that father took his 12-year-old daughter's advice. But I think that is really the kind of students and citizens that we want coming out of our own schools, who are mature, socio-emotionally developed human beings, who can not only be agents of change themselves, but as this 12-year-old tried, to actually bring larger change in the system around them. Thank you.